Hello, this is Alex, welcome to Boomstick Gaming, and my combat system breakdown of Persona 5 Scramble. This is an arcadey action RPG that picks up after the events of Persona 5, but unlike most spin-offs, this is the full Persona experience with heavy story elements, town exploration, bonding with your friends, and of course, taking down every shadow in sight. I was surprised by how well many of the mechanics of the mainline game actually translate quite well into some of the largest scale battles the series has ever seen. There is a decent amount of depth here, so let's get into it and see what makes up the core gameplay of Persona 5 Scramble. The absolute basics of combat revolve around stringing together your wide sweeping melee attacks, which can be done on the ground or in the air. Your aerial attacks tend to scoop up enemies quite nicely and have different combos all to itself. Same goes for your secondary attack, which fires your pistol at faraway enemies, but this also acts as a combo modifier when combined with your primary attacks. Ending different length combos with the alternate button will yield entirely different finishers that often call forth your persona to deal a heavy hit. Here's where things really start to get interesting and much more Persona, with your ability to stop time to use your skills. The magic focused attacks will use your SP resource, and just like in the mainline games, HP to dish out the big melee attacks. While time is frozen, you can shift around the sphere of influence of the attack, which will even highlight the enemies at the location that are weak to that type of skill. If a weakness of an enemy is exploited, you get a chance to perform a follow-up all-out attack while they're knocked down. Once you amass more than one persona, you can switch between all skills available across your entire team, which really gives you a lot to work with and adds a cool tactical element. There are certain objects spread around the environments that allow you to warp across the battlefield by doing a phantom move. While you are mounted on the highlighted object, you can now wait till enemies draw closer to pull off a devastating attack that differs according to what you're on. These attacks are some of the strongest and most reliable when available, but phantom moves can also be used as an evasive tool to simply get around the battlefield more efficiently. You will also be doing this quite often outside of combat as well to navigate to different areas, so this is something you will definitely get accustomed to. There is a secondary way to freeze time outside of casting your skills, which allows you to strategically target certain enemies with your gun. If they are weak to bullet damage, this is another way to knock them down, allowing for a follow-up attack. You will also notice that certain enemies will use skills all to their own, which is indicated by the icon above their heads while they're casting. You can choose to try to interrupt them or avoid the oncoming spell, and this is yet again another mechanic that ties in nicely with your ability to stop time and put a little more thought into combat. When fighting boss enemies, you can perform a one more time attack, which is similar to the all-out attacks I've been showing on the smaller enemies, but this triggers from not only damaging their weakness, but also by breaking their shield bars, which certain larger enemies will have. The boss fights seem to shift the combat flow quite a bit, and just like the core RPGs, can actually pose a pretty good challenge. All of this is not a solo effort, and your teammates will be fighting alongside you, and they can use their own skills to assist in battle. And with that pretty much wraps up the basic principles of the combat system in Persona 5 Scramble, but there is a lot more depth to all of this once you start gathering more personas and expanding your skill set. I consider Persona 5 to be one of, if not the best JRPGs of the last decade, and I'm excited that it looks like we won't have to deal with a mediocre real-time combat system to see what happens next for the Phantom Thieves. Now, if you happen to enjoy my straightforward coverage of gameplay systems and mechanics, consider subscribing to Boomstick Gaming, ringing that little bell icon if you already are, and you can also find me on Twitter at BoomstickAlex. A special mention to the top supporting YouTube members and patrons you're seeing on screen, who really help to keep this individually owned and operated channel functioning. As always, this has been Alex from Boomstick Gaming, and thanks for watching.